Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equities Story. I'm with the Wolf, and obviously just general share advice and not personal advice. Wolfie, we're talking about yesterday about how when you get these sort of wars, they're fairly short term, and the markets bounce back really quickly. Um, when we were talking about that, we didn't mean 24 hours. What
The-
what's going on?
Dave, it's almost like, well, first of all, the market does not have any emotions, right? It
Well, I
doesn't.
think it's embarrassing for us involved in this industry because it doesn't. We just care about
Money.
money and if companies are doing well, and I think that I've got the volatility index up here, which did have a spike up obviously early in the week when if you get the volatility index spiking up near 40, you've often got a problem. And last night it was down again, which showing that already the market is starting to be a little bit blasé with the whole thing. And your reasoning for that, Wolf, is that they're fairly sure it looks like now Russia have come in and taken control pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's the key here. That it seems it's going to be pretty swift, and the markets settle down as a result of that. So you got a bit of a relief rally, let's say. But I don't think we're going to go back to that previous highs. It's just a relief rally. Let's see what the next few days brings, especially the weekend in the US.
And for what reason do you think the the tech stocks had a bounce?
It's a very good question. Well, first of all, there were
Well, I know you don't know the answer because we've been
no.
talking.
I mean, look, I'm just thinking they were shellacked, right? So there's pent up demand for some of these cheap stocks. So that's one thing I can think of. But I'm reading through all these news. I'm thinking, why are the tech stocks up? And to be honest, I can't give you a real answer to it, as in particular strongest reason why, apart from thinking that there's a bit of a relief rally. Like I said, the tech stock have been completely smashed. Maybe I'm thinking, other interest rates, as the market thinking that maybe some postponement. I don't know. It is just weird, but that's just markets for you, isn't
Well,
it?
it could be that. I mean, there could be, there was a little bit of talk. Will the Fed ease off a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think they they will at all. Actually, Wolf. I don't think they can they, with the inflation?
No,
And also, we're going to get possibly stronger inflation coming forward. The,
exactly.
but the
Exactly.
Americans must be licking their lips now with the thought that they have the potential to sell a lot more gas into Europe.
Mm. Oh yeah, look, gas, and I suppose the other thing is that the sanctions that I'm just looking to see what Biden's putting down, of course, with the West, which I think sanctions on technology and all this. Maybe that's one of the rallies. I don't know. I mean, when you block someone else, are you gonna? I don't know. I'm just trying to fish for stuff, Dave, and I'm probably clutching at straws here.
All right, but
Other security stocks maybe having a good run.
But there are some companies that anyway they've sort of announced today. It's still not
Yeah.
it's not a trading market. So sorry guys, we're just not going to put any trades on. And if stocks hit stop losses, you just got to get out at the moment. That's unfortunately the market we're in.
Yep.
Um, but there are some dividend plays that had some. If you've got them for a dividend play, we can understand you holding them. They've had some good announcements, and again, Wolf, a lot of strong announcements coming out of a number of stories at the moment.
There is.
And CHC Charter Hall
Yep.
slightly below trend. So obviously, if you weren't in this for any other reason, you'd be getting out. But holding up the dividend and I believe a little bit of growth there.
There is growth, and I think they also delivered an upgrade, which was actually quite decent. It was about 5% upgrade. So if you are holding this, you've got encouragement to hold on a little bit longer. It's not too expensive, 15 times, and you've got a dividend yield of about 3%. So I don't know, maybe you just use that $15, maybe slightly more as your last line of defense. But for me, I think we've got better dividend stocks, Dave. So I would not be using this as a dividend stock because it's only got 3%.
Yeah, like you said, we didn't get out of bed for 3%.
No, absolutely not.
Um, but one stock we might get out of bed for, Wolf, is ABA. So they had a net profit after tax of 13.7 million, up 19.4%,
Mm-hmm.
and I do believe a much juicier dividend of around 5.71%. And
That's net. So grossed up, you're looking at 8.2, 8.3, right? So that's very attractive. We do get out of bed for that sort of numbers. And you know, ABA delivered a pretty good result today. So if you are looking for a dividend stock, definitely want to look at, because the chart's actually looking pretty good.
And not expensive, Wolf, at 14 times. So,
Oh,
like,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
a bit to like about it.
Mhm.
Likewise, another one that I think we'll get out of bed for is, as a dividend, it's AFG. So trading a P of 12 and a dividend 5.6% grossed up. Would that
8.5.
8.5? So another one we'll get out of bed for.
Absolutely. And again, you know, slightly below, I think, the trends. So I think you can forgive it for that. But there's growth there, and it's actually quite good growth. So for me, this is probably one of the better stocks to hold, and maybe use that $2 as your last line of defense.
You know what? We've got so many nice dividend stocks at the moment
Mm.
on the market. I mean, there are certainly there's another one is NSR.
Yep.
So now this one has got a decent chart, Wolf, and looks like it could go possibly even higher next week. And NSR, which is a storage business, is got the dividend's not so good. What, gross up about 5.5?
No, it's actually 3.6.
3.6, not so good. Not so good,
All right.
right?
No, so I think I'm going to leave that one to you as a trade only. Good result today, mind you, but it's just a trade only because it's just not enough for a dividend play.
Yeah, and I think it most probably will trade up a little bit higher. But let's see where it is. If it's on Einstein's, people can have a look at it, Wolf.
Yep.
Now, PLY. So,
Yeah.
fantastic announcement. It's got so much potential, this company, Wolf. Tell us all about it.
Oh, amazing result today. Not just from the fact that they've grew their revenues by almost 100%, and actually on track. So looking through the numbers, looking through what they've done over the last 6 months, Dave. So they had 10 million revenues in FY21. They're looking on track, to my calculations, about 30 mil. So that's 200% growth on their revenue line, which is good. They need to, because they need to catch up to the valuation, which is almost 400 million, right? So that's now brings it to a much more attractive valuation for me. And when you look at the presentation today, there are so many games on development. It's unbelievable. So presumably there's going to be lots of announcements. There's probably potentially going to be lots of extra revenue growth from a lot of these different things. I suppose the only caveat is that's going to come at a cost, right? That's going to come at a cost hiring new people, growing these new divisions, especially this metaverse that I'm obviously trying to explore to see exactly what's going on. And so you got to be expecting that when you're playing with this story. But generally speaking, what a fantastic story to play with, Dave. I think this is going well and should be going well for the next 12 months at the very least, because like I said, there should be a lot of announcements and positive announcement to boot.
SES Wolf, I think they had a revenue gain around sort of sales growth of about 10.3%. Unfortunately, the chart has broken now. Reason being, is it because it's not making money yet, Wolf?
Yeah, that's true. It is, marginally cash flow positive, I think, or profitable. So from that point of view, yeah, it's still obviously lacking that bottom line strength. And of course, the markets this week did not help it. So the markets actually broke its back this week, I'd say. It's not their results. The markets broke its back. It's just struggling to get back to where it was. So unfortunately, when we invest into stories, guys, is we got to have a strategy. The strategy is with a lot of these stories is, doesn't matter how good the result is. If it breaks the trend, you got to get out. Otherwise, you've got no strategy. There are some exceptions, of course. I've got some stocks that I'm putting it on a monthly. In this case, unfortunately, I had this as a weekly, so I'm going to keep it as a weekly, and I'm going to come back to it when it goes over the 28, 29 cents again.
Wolf, next one off the list, we got ABC. And this price action is very good. Now, I would most probably, if it ended like this, I'd be looking at trending this. It doesn't look too bad. I mean, revenue was up 8%. NPAT was up about 3%. But the price action of the chart looks very good.
Yeah, Dave, if you rewind back to 12 months ago when tech stocks were flying, this result would go, everyone would go, I'm bored, right? What a reversal. This result, 3% growth. Yes, we've got someone's actually making money, right? It's a bit of value. What a difference, doesn't it? And tech stocks are like, doesn't matter how much growth you're going to come up with. Nah, sorry, you're going down.
But yeah, listen, I think the price action looks good, Wolf, and it could go on with it. Maybe even just retest that 350, maybe even higher.
It's actually not a bad story, because if you look at it, it's trading on 16 times and a 6% dividend yield. So if I was looking at, I know we don't get out of bed for 7, but I'll make an exception for this one at 6.
All right. So again, possibly a dividend play with could have a little bit of a move higher.
Because it's a big boy. It's not a small little company, right? So that's why I'm going to make an exception as a dividend play at 6%.
All right, Wolf. Thank you for that. ALK. Obviously a little gold explorer, Wolf. Also a nice little chart. Not bad.
Yep.
Is the Boda? Are people starting to get warmed up a little bit to the Boda project?
I am. I'm looking at the numbers at the moment, because they've released a pretty interesting announcement today, talking about drilling it out and coming out with a resource. So they gave us all the numbers that we need to work out what roughly it's going to be. So I'm working at the moment. I'll come back to it on Monday on it, but it's look like it's going to be quite big, Dave. I think they're talking about 400 meters wide, 500 meters in length, and 900 meters in depth. So we've got enough numbers in there to sort of give us a ballpark figure of how big this deposit will be.
All right, and I look forward to that. So you're going to run some numbers by Monday.
By Monday, I'll get some numbers out.
All right, LYC. Again, a good announcement, Wolf, and holding up this chart very nicely.
Yeah, look, pretty strong result. You've got over 100 million in profits. If you look at, I think at the end of the day, Dave, if you look at the actual neodymium, praseodymium prices on the rare earth charts, they're still going pretty well. Actually, can we have a look at them to see where they are at the moment?
Yeah, of course.
And that's the reason why it's still holding up pretty well. And if you've got a long-term view on this, it's still a hold, of course. Maybe with a view of a little bit of a nibble. It's probably, it's strange to say, but this is definitely one of the ones that I'd be looking at for the long term, especially when there's lots of shenanigans going on around the globe.
There you go.
So, okay, let's go to this ND neodymium that should be on there somewhere. There we go.
Let's have a look at the chart.
Yeah.
Look at that, it's on the daily. Look at it on the monthly, Wolf. Very good, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the reason why you'd probably be still very, very bullish on that space.
That's impressive, isn't it?
It's super impressive. And remember, this is one of the most strategic companies globally. Strategic companies. Everyone will probably want a piece of that.
Wolf, next one off the list, AVONE. What do you make of that? It's up 5.26%, up 10% earlier. It's just holding in there above that 10 cents.
Yep.
It's slowly. It's very early.
Yeah, it's very early story. When we spoke to their management, when we looked at the company, we knew it's going to be not an overnight type success, because they were starting at a very low base revenue wise. So that we're not going to come up with miracles. So we thought, can we get to 10 million type stuff? Yeah, we can. And that was the mantra from the boss. But, I'm thinking 2 years, 10 million. So you've got to have patience with this. But unfortunately, if it does break the 10 cents, we've got to get out. That's the caveat here.
All right, let's have a look at CAA, because they came out with an announcement. And I think you said, again, that was a stunning announcement. But you're thinking, dividend play, absolutely fine. But I suppose the big query is this as good as it gets?
Quite possibly, it could be as good as it gets. Look, it's a fantastic company, and they are fairly conservative in what they provide. So let's look at it this way, right? You get a great dividend out of it. It's super cheap. Let's say this is as good as it gets. Can they at least maintain this sort of form, right? Or close to it? The outlook was for lower numbers than this year, which is, it's not great for if you're holding companies, you want to see growth in your company, but you're buying this for the chart and for the dividend. So even if because it's cheap, it might still go up on the back of that, and they could surprise on the upside at the end of the next year. This space is actually quite good for them, aluminium space. and they manufacture everything Australia wide. So, you know, there's that big bonus of local at the moment. So there's no other issues with supply constraints and so on. So look, there's definitely a lot of pluses in here. And if I'm still a holder, I'm holding.
Okay, excellent. Wolf,
I'm not afraid.
We're going to mention PVS because we're not going to buy this yet. But again, another great announcement. It's on its knees, but a stock that's looking cheap at about 1 times revenue.
Yeah, about 1.5. Yeah, crazy, isn't it, Dave?
1.5. So possibly. Unfortunately, we're just not going to buy this price action. We're just going to wait till it. You know, we're going to wait till it gets back above trend. But again, it's seriously on our watch list because this company could be
still growing. It's still growing, isn't it? So we just want the market love to return back to this story.
Wolf, can I talk about Biz because it's got a quite nice little chart. It actually did. I did put it on Einstein's 2 weeks ago, and it's starting to go through now. Very small market cap. It's a real micro cap, this story, but a dividend of I'm not too sure gross up. I've got 5.3 and a P of 8.7. Maybe gross up a little bit more.
Yeah, close. I'm got close to you. So Reuters saying 7.8 PE. So that's bloody cheap.
So
and you've dividend yield of 9.
So we will get out of bed for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the result was very good today. And again, it's another one of those capital type stories, the CAAs, where they are, you know, manufactured in Australia. So this is still products, and it's going very, very well at the moment. So, you know, they did say there's a caveat in the outlook saying, as long as the conditions obviously are sustained, and what I mean by that is, you know, there's got a recovery in the economy. There's a strong construction market. They're going to do quite well. And I think the conditions should go for another 12 months. So for me, if you're looking for another dividend story, if you're looking for a good chart, you've got another good story to add to your.
We've really got some great little dividend plays today. Absolutely superb. Wolf, ALG, again, it looked good on the charts last week. I did whack it on Einstein's. And it's gone through very, very nicely. It looks like it's going to go back to that 160. You're feeling maybe that's maybe as far as it's going to go for the time being. You weren't totally infused with the announcement, were you?
Well, look, the announcement, it was good from the fact that it improved significantly from the previous year, but the previous year was just absolutely horrid, right? So if you didn't improve from last year, there's something wrong with your business. So there's definitely a big improvement. However, you know, they lost last year about 80 million odd. They've lost 40 million this year. So, you know, if you applaud that, then I suppose it is on the up, and maybe that the risk reward isn't just there for the moment for me. So I need to probably see a little bit more out of it for the next 6 months. But it is, David, it's definitely a strong post-pandemic play. So potentially the market could just trade it all the way to that 160, 170 and push it higher.
Wolf, DGL pretty much sort of flagged. I mean, it's holding above the trend line quite nicely. Did you feel the announcement was good enough for this to hold trend?
Yeah, I hope so. So if people are still on this, they didn't sell as a trend, I'm still, you know, quietly confident that it can actually hold on and give us some of that reward and get that past the $3 plus and give us a return on our investment. So yeah, it's given me confidence, that result. But, you know, the market's is a funny beast at the moment. So just use that green line.
Wolf, can I just also emphasize, I mean, most people have done the Cincinnati course. Some people haven't. Please remember, when we look at weekly charts, stop losses are at the end of the week. So towards the close on Friday, unless there's some major announcement about the company. Okay. ASG, Wolf. A good announcement. It's not trending very well, the story, but again, I mean, it has had an incredible run. There's no question about it. Unfortunately, from a technical point of view, we're out. But would this be one you'd be looking to get back in if it got back over 220?
Absolutely. You know, the conditions are still very positive. Wait till the actual chain supply issues with cars coming into Australia get sorted, because there's like 6 to 12 month waiting list on some cars, Dave. So there's a huge pent-up demand for cars. I'd expect some of these APEs, ASGs, the PWRs to do very, very well still over the next, say, 6 to 12 months.
Right. The Kogan was pretty abysmal.
Unfortunately, it was, yeah, no, we've spoken about it before, didn't we? Many years ago, that Mr. Kogan is learning on the job, pretty much. And that's just, it shows in the numbers, it shows in the fluctuation of his performance. It started with he's selling the shares at a really wrong time, didn't give much confidence to the markets, didn't know what he's doing. So while he might be a pretty astute businessman, I'm not sure, he's obviously super experienced in running such a thing on a large scale. And it just shows, I think, definitely there's a lot of moving parts of the business. There's a lot of problems. And at the moment, it's very, very messy. So for me, wouldn't be touching it.
Harvey Norman. Wolfie, it's always been a fairly decent dividend player. Now, I know you've always got this phobia about Harvey Norman. It's like, it's a little bit like my phobia to spiders. You just don't like Harvey Norman. But come on, P of 8. What's that dividend now? Gross up 9%, 10%?
Let's have a look. So I've got an aversion to the management, Dave. I do. 7.4 PE and a dividend yield of 10. So look,
come on, you can't. He's Jerry Harvey. He's a national icon.
Yeah, well, he's a national icon, absolutely. And
how can you not like old Jerry?
He is a good operator, but the problem is their financials are not very transparent. Well, so from a fundamental point of view, there's a big question mark. And I just, I've got so many stories up my sleeve that I don't need to go there. For someone that can take the risk on, and the risk is not huge. It's small, but it's there for me, and I want to reduce my risk as much as I possibly can. I'd want to find something else to play with.
But surely the books are audited, Wolf, and
they are. But he keeps moving, assets from one to the next. Then he goes buys a farm with Harvey Norman, cattle farms. I mean, it's got nothing to do with Harvey Norman. So I just, the way he operates is his own style. That's probably the best way you can probably say. Well, and I just don't like it.
I accept that, but good dividend play if you want to be in it for a dividend.
Absolutely.
And again, another interesting story as a dividend play, Wolf.
Yeah.
Now, your favorite one was Probiotics.
There was.
And so it should be. I mean, they're in the right space at the moment, isn't there? Everyone taking pills and whatever. And holding trend quite nicely, Wolf.
Yeah, look, it is a story that's pretty interesting because it's in the manufacturing of medicine, I think capsules and all this sort of packaging, right, for the health industry. So it's a very interesting space, and it should be doing quite well. The only issue with this, and look, it is probably one of my favorite results because I also come up with an upgrade. The only issue with this is still quite expensive. So it's trading on 35 times. So that's maybe the only thing that's holding it back. So Dave, maybe we need to wait for a better looking chart.
All right. Let's have a look at Square because I'll look at them on the American. Oh, it hasn't opened in America yet, but they're up 33% today. What's going on there, Wolf?
Result last night. They've come up with a decent growth number. Well, actually a very, very strong number, but unfortunately the costs also was very, very strong. So it meant that the bottom line suffered. So that I think they only made like $500 million only, right? It's nice, but not when you're $100 billion company. It's not nice. So it's trading on a very high PE, but the top line growth is very, very good in there. So the question is for me, right? What would I value this company at, and where do I see it in the next couple of years? Thinking of that, of course, they bought Afterpay, which wasn't included in the financials for me. So there's two things here for me, Dave. First of all, I always liked the company. Remember, I always talked highly of it for a long time. I still think that they're going through some growing pains, I think. So there's going to be a volatility in this story. And this Afterpay for me is high risk because I think they paid way too much for it, especially if they waited for another 6 to 12 months, they would have paid it probably a quarter of what they've paid today. Last year. So yeah, it's interesting proposition here for me. I think I'd be patient with this. I would not be jumping in too early.
All right, Wolf. Listen, we're going to look at a number of stories that are obviously going to be affected by the. Maybe we could do that on Monday. A lot of stories have been affected by the embargo with Russia. I think an area where we are interested in is ammonia nitrate, Wolf,
Yep.
for fertilizers, where I think Russia produce a huge amount of this. Now we do have some producers in Australia. IPL is one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, you could have a look at this. At the moment, it's not trending, so maybe I wouldn't bother.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some palladium producers as well. Like Russia's one of the biggest palladium producers in the world, I think. And we looked at Zimplats, didn't we?
Yep.
So maybe people could have a look at that. But again, it's not trending. And a little explorer with palladium is little future metals FME. So they're drilling at the moment, and that chart, keep an eye on it. It doesn't look too bad. So, and of course you've got Chalice, which again needs to just fight back and get above the trend line. So we'll keep looking at a lot of these sectors, Wolf, I'm sure over next week. These areas which are going to benefit from the
Sanctions.
tariffs and
Yep.
sanctions that are going to be put on Russia,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's going to be again a very interesting time.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's I'd say volatility for the moment will probably stay. I mean, maybe not the VIX index doesn't show that, but there's definitely volatility. You saw 3% up NASDAQ yesterday. That's significant. So like I said, I don't think there's a rush to keep jumping in and out. Just probably just keep sitting on the sidelines for the moment, and just see at least the weekend, see what happens there, see if Ukraine does fall, what the plan is next for Russia. And if the markets settle down, then at least that part's going to be over, right, for us. And then we can concentrate on the interest rates and inflation.
Brilliant, Wolf. On that note, thank you very, very much. And I look forward to, we're actually on Analyst live in half an hour. So grab
Yeah.
a coffee, Wolf, and let's get going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see you in half an hour, everyone.
Thanks, Wolfie.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye.